Yo, how is everybody going? Sorry that it's been a minute. I have been traveling around Queensland. I flew up to Hervey Bay and then I went down to the Gold Coast. Now I'm back in Brisbane for 2 days before I go up to Mackay. So my March has been a little bit chaotic. That's why there haven't been that many episodes. And I thought I would jump on here to just talk to you about something that I think is really important, something that kind of happened to me over the past week, which was facing my fear, facing my panic. And I thought it would be a good thing to talk about because I see this as like a common occurrence within my interviews with other people. Also, while I am doing this episode, I'm going to be doing my skincare. I just jumped out of the shower. I'm going to be having a glass of red. And I'm so excited because I got some new cruelty-free products. We love cruelty-free. And yeah, so if you hear me opening things up, that is just me preparing to do a step of my skincare. So what kind of made me want to talk about this was that I recently, last week, I faced my fear of flying. And it's not really a fear of flying itself. Like, I've flown many a time before. I mean, I used to fly overseas quite regularly to see my ex in New York. But it was like this internal fear that came up about being trapped. And that comes from being trapped, like, in my life, being trapped in a room, being trapped in a situation I don't want to be in, being trapped in a contract. Like, I just don't like being trapped. Also driving, like being trapped in traffic, trapped on a highway, like being trapped is a major source of where my panic comes from. And anyway, my dad was getting married and we were going up to Hervey Bay because that's where my grandparents live. And I had the decision to make, which was either get on a Greyhound bus, which was going to take 7.5 hours because they have to stop along the way, or take a 50-minute flight from Brisbane. So Hervey Bay is about 4 hours from Brisbane in car, and I don't drive. So that was never going to be an option for me. And I also was like, okay, I've done enough work internally, like mentally, like maybe now it's time that I face these panic attacks. And if you have ever had a panic attack, you know exactly what it's like. But if you have never had a panic attack, I will describe it for you. And it's different for everybody. But for me, a panic attack is where I feel like I'm going to lose control of my behavior and I'm going to go into some type of psychosis, and I'm going to hurt people around me or hurt myself, and I'm just going to lose all control. And this stems from, the traffic is very loud outside, but you can hear that. But this stems from my PTSD and some things that happened to me. And it really started to bubble up about 7 years ago when I first stopped taking drugs. And last year I had decided to come off my medication because I was on a SSRI, and I decided, okay, I'm feeling good now. Like, my life's kind of sorted. Like, I'm living at a home and got my own place and I've got a job and, you know, my art's going well. I'm going to go off my meds. And I was actually talking to my sister, who is an RN, a registered nurse, and she was like, Maddie, like, that's half the reason why you should just stay on your meds, like, if things are going well. But anyway, under the guidance of my doctor, I decided to come off my medication over a series of months. And I literally, after the floods happened last year in Brisbane, I just hit a wall. And the panic attacks started coming back. I lost my job. I quickly got a new job. And then I had a lot of court things happening, like being told I was going to be subpoenaed and things like that, which didn't turn out to be that bad. But yeah, a lot of things were happening in my life. And one of the other things, which is so weird, is that I have this thing about escapism where like I try to escape, and I think that's why my art is really great. But anyway, so I was faced with this dilemma of being like, okay, I need to get to Harvey Bay. My dad is going to be so angry at me if I do not go to his wedding, and I need to go. So I was like, I'm not going to sit on a Greyhound bus. I did that going up to Noosa for Christmas, and it was just like hell. Like, I need a quick and easy way to get there. So I was like, I'll book this flight. I was anxious for it for like a couple of weeks. I was like, okay, we're going to get on this aeroplane, and I'm not going to take any benzos. And benzos, by the way, are like Valiums. And I'm just going to chill, right? We're just going to get on there. We're just going to feel the fear and do it anyway. And we're just going to practice everything that I've learnt in therapy. So I have obviously done like quite a bit of work mentally. It actually put me into like quite a financial weird position where I don't have a lot of savings anymore. Australian mental health is not great, and the insurance companies don't cover a lot. They only cover about $250 worth, which is about one session. The government does subsidise a few sessions, and that is about, I think 10 during COVID they were subsidising. And I used up all my 10. And then with Victims Assist in New South Wales, I couldn't find anybody to do it with. And even my own psychologist found it really difficult to be able to use that hours. So with that, I think I get like 26 hours, but I haven't been able to access them because I'm in Queensland. I don't live in New South Wales. But anyway, I needed to really work on myself last year. I went on a different type of antidepressant, which isn't an SSRI. And I basically was seeing my therapist like once a week and was trying to like build up this resilience and this bandwidth. So I then, sorry, I'm getting a little bit weird even like talking about this, but I think it's really important to talk about because I don't think that there's a lot of like first-hand accounts talking about it. Like there's a lot of psychology psychology podcasts talking about panic attacks, but I don't think there's a lot of like first-hand experience actually talking about it. And I'm still like, I still had a panic attack on this plane, FYI, like spoiler alert, it happened, but I was able to move through it. So anyway, it comes to like D-Day, having to fly. I get to the airport. I know that I'm flying regionally, so the plane is going to be small. And this plane was quite small. I mean, I think you could only fit like 50 people on it. Like it was tiny. And they have to put you on a bus before you go out to the plane because there's like obviously no way for you to get on it. Like you don't go down one of those carriage ways. You like have to go up like a tiny ladder and step onto it. And like it's a little bit bigger than like maybe like 3 times bigger than like a private jet. So it still has like propellers on both sides, by the way. But I got to the airport 2.5 hours early just so I could like regulate myself. And then when it got time to get onto the bus, I started to get the dread. And panic attacks are paradoxical, right? So if you think you're going to have a panic attack, it's going to happen. And I always try to have the mindset whenever I'm driving now, like, you know, if we have a panic attack, whatever, like, it's sweet. We can work through that. I'm cool with that. I can just pull over, or I can, you know, sit with it. Like, I'm good with that, although I don't drive along highways, but that's a different issue within itself. So anyway, we got onto this little bus and the dread kicks in, and I've been listening to, like, I can't say it, it's like binaural, I don't know. I'm listening to those like real chill beats that have meant they like use it to help regulate anxiety. And I'm like, okay, the dread's coming. We know we're getting on this plane. We knew this was going to happen. And in my head, I was having this like tug of war. And it was like, get off the bus. don't go, you don't need to go, get off the bus, this feels really uncomfortable, get off. And then my cognitive side would come in and be like, yo, it's all good, Maddie, like, we got this, you've had this before, this is just a new experience, it's fine, you are safe. And then my other side of my brain, which I'll explain in a second, was like, no, this is not safe at all, you need to get up now. And I could actually feel like my legs tensing, like I was gonna get up and run away, because my fight or flight had been activated, right? So for me, that's right, I was going to talk about what it's like when I have a panic attack. So for me, it's sometimes my eyes will go fuzzy, I'll sweat, I'll get really sweaty palms, I'll start crying, my breathing gets out of whack. So I was just sitting there in this little bus doing these like breaths, like, you know, imagining a box and I'm moving my finger across the box and like letting the thought come into my mind, like the panic, and then just letting it float away. And if it would keep coming back, I would just keep breathing and watching it float away and just reminding myself that I'm having a thought of a thought of a thought, like it's all good, you know. So then it comes to where the bus takes off, right? And I've kind of settled it down now. Like I've gone back to my baseline of being okay. And we get out of the bus and we're lining up to walk onto this like really small plane. And I didn't realize that it was going to be such a small plane. But I was like, okay, well, we're here now. It's not like I can turn around. So I started practicing some mindfulness and I was just like, okay, we're just going to focus on the one step in front of the other. Just one step. And I was like shuffling. Like I did not want to take those steps. And as soon as I got on the plane, I said to the flight attendant, I was like, look, I think I'm going to have a panic attack. I might cry. Like, I just want you to know that I'm okay, but I really don't like flying. And she was like, it's all good. It's a really quick flight. Like, honestly, but it's okay. I get anxiety too, so I get it. So that made me feel a bit better. And shout out to her. She was the best. But anyway, I sit down on the plane. I put my headphones in because these planes are really loud. Sit down on the plane, put my headphones in, and I take my journal out and I just start journaling. Like I'm on the plane and I can't think properly at this point because cognitively I just can't do it. And I'm on the plane thinking for like 4 or 5 seconds, where normally when I'm journaling I can just like write whatever's coming to my mind. I'm on the plane, pause. I'm going to Dad and Naomi's wedding, pause. I just started having a panic attack. And then, of course, it comes back, right? And this is when I'm like, okay, let's go back to the breathing. Let's bring it back. And I have these little cards that were given out at one of the senior leadership conferences from my child safety work. And one of them says, I'm going to feel the fear and do it anyway. Or it's like giving yourself permission. So giving yourself permission to feel the fear, giving yourself permission to fail but keep going, giving yourself permission to feel uncomfortable. And I picked out these little cards being like, okay, cool, I'll pick some out and we'll just see how it all, we'll just keep writing. And then they reached a point where like I started crying because the plane was like taking off. But I was crying really quietly. I probably wasn't crying really quietly because I had my headphones in, but I was like crying and nervous. And the lady came over after she did like the safety thing and handed me some water and some like tissues. And I was like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start drawing something in my journal. So I started drawing this like really stick figurey, like hills and waterfalls with like trees and birds' nests and like a dog. And I just got out my like pastel highlighters and I just started coloring it in. And one of the great things about mindfulness is that I could just be like, looking at these highlighters or whatever's in like my bag, and I could just count out all the colors that I could see, and it really brought me back. So I was definitely so proud of myself once it had left. I think it took maybe like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and it was gone. Maybe even 20 minutes, I'm not sure. But like, it was quite a short panic attack, and it went away. And then I started getting really excited, and I was like, oh my God, I'm flying. And I didn't even like get drunk. I didn't take any benzos, and I'm by myself. And like, mind you, I used to fly to New York like all the time by myself, all the time. And that's like sometimes a 32-hour like travel time, you know? So that was really fun. And I mean, it was fun. I ended up taking a sip of my alcohol. Yeah, I hope you guys are drinking like something, whether it's tea or a wine. I'm having a wine by Sister's Run. But yeah, it was heaps. It was actually quite a fun experience. And then when I landed, I got greeted at the airport by my dad holding a sign saying, welcome home from jail, Maddie. And it had hashtag Cappy Forever, because I love capybaras. And I was like, oh my God, that is so funny. And it is really funny because like people who are from jail only have like black and grey tattoos, and I only have black and grey tattoos. And anyway, it was just so funny. But coming home or coming back to Brisbane before going down to the Gold Coast, I mean, that was like, okay, we're doing it. This is what we're doing. We have to get to the Gold Coast. We're going to go to this conference. The only way we're getting there is by this plane. And I was feeling like a little bit more confident. Like I was like, okay, cool. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. I got onto this plane, and on these like little regional planes, they don't sit you next to somebody unless you've got a ticket or if it's a full plane. And this was like mid-afternoon. So I was sitting by myself both times. But anyway, got on the plane and just started journaling again, had my little routine set up. Didn't pick out any cards this time, like the permission cards. Was like breathing. Of course, I had like a little wave of anxiety where it was like, ooh, we're gonna have a panic attack. Ooh, I don't know. And I was just like, you know what? If we have a panic attack, I handled it last time. I know I can handle it this time. So with this whole thing that I'm talking about, which is like feeling the fear and facing your fears, I kind of want to explain to you, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I want to explain to you what is happening inside of your brain when you're having a panic attack. So generally, when you're having a panic attack, and it's like phobia based, and there's usually a trigger, and it happens, and you know, sometimes it can just happen out of the blue. You don't have to have any traumas. For me, I have traumas, so we know where the source of it is from. But I found it really comforting to know what was actually happening internally in my brain and in why this was happening. So I'll explain it to you. Okay, let's stop getting so wordy. So imagine your brain in the palm of your hand, and you place your thumb down into the middle of your palm, and then you place your 4 fingers on top over that. So now that you're looking at your hand, so you have your 4 fingers on top of your thumb, which is laying in the middle of your palm. The 4 fingers at the front, this is your prefrontal cortex or your cortex, neocortex. If you flip that up, you then have in the middle your amygdala, or your, I guess that's like, you know, your hypothalamus, that sort of thing. Then your wrist is not your neocortex. So I was doing so fucking well. Fucking dyslexia. That is your brain stem, your wrist. So this concept, this hand model of the brain, this isn't mine, obviously. This is Dr. Dan Siegel's, and he is incredible. He talks about flipping your lid. And when you flip your lid, your 4 fingers come up the front, and it disconnects. So your prefrontal cortex, neocortex disconnects from your amygdala and your brain stem. So your brain stem is like your lizard brain. That's like your breathing, your heart rate. You know, it's all of your your nervous system. It's all that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, when people hurt themselves or they break their neck, then that stops them from breathing. The amygdala, that is your alarm system in your brain. So that is the thing when we were like cavemen and we saw a tiger, that was the thing that would tell us, okay, that's danger, and we would go into fight or flight. Now the 4 fingers at the front, that is your thinking brain, and that is, I mean, I'm probably going to fuck this up somehow and someone's going to be like, that's not right. But this is our thinking brain. It's the one that, it's like our detective brain. It's what makes us question things. It's our behaviors. It's, you know, everything that kind of makes us human almost. I mean, there's a lot more that makes us human, but in the context of this. So when you flip your lid, which is what it's called, when your 4 fingers are now off from the palm of your hand, your thinking brain can't speak to your amygdala. And it can't in any way, shape or form think. And that's when people start to be like, oh my God, what are these sensations? What's going on? What's happening? What is this? What is that? Am I safe? Like, do I need to run? Do I need to hide? So I think what's really important if you are struggling with panic attacks is to be able to understand what is happening neurobiology. I can't say the word, but what's happening inside your brain, and to understand that massively. I mean, I wish I kind of had this knowledge before I went on medication, but I'm going to have a hit on my vape. And I just think it's so important to understand that, because, see, when I was going through that panic attack on the plane, I was like, I could really slow down my thinking, and I could slow down what was happening, and I wasn't as reactionary as I was before. So now that I've spoken about that, now I've spoken about facing your fear, which is like an actual fear. And I mean, they're all actual fears, but like as an actual evidence of first-hand account of facing a fear, I want to talk about facing your fear as a creative. So I think one of the things that I always hear from people is that I could never do that. I could never start a business. I could never, you know, make a website. I could never have an exhibition. And yeah, maybe it's not a fear. Maybe it's a lack of confidence or a lack of knowledge. But I think a lot of it comes down to fear. Fear of being rejected. Fear of their art not being liked. And I think it is so important to remember that, you know, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. I mean, my first solo exhibition was called I Don't Know What the Fuck I'm Doing, because I literally didn't know what I was doing at all. I had no clue whatsoever. So I think if you really truly want something, and if you really want it, you just got to feel the fear and do it anyway, honey. Like, you just got to go in there, believe in yourself. Like when I was on that plane, I was like, still mid panic attack, but I was like, no, we can do this. I believe in me. And you know what's so funny is that on Saturday, I have to get on another plane. I have to get on another plane. And I'm so excited to tell my therapist on Friday, because she doesn't know that I got on a plane. I haven't seen her in a couple of weeks. I can't wait to tell her and be like, yo, you'll never believe what I did without even consulting you or getting your guidance. I took it upon myself to get on a fucking plane. And, you know, yeah, I was messaging my friends being like, this is really difficult. This is really hard. I'm having a panic attack. But, you know, we did it. So when it comes down to being a creative and getting panicky, I mean, I know sometimes even like doing presentations and things like that, that can be super anxiety inducing. Like when I did the artist talk last year, there's a photo on my website in my bio of me talking and I'm smiling, but I'm having a panic attack in that photo. I'm full blown panic mode. And as soon as I started talking and just I just went along with my script or whatever, it faded away and it went really, really beautifully. But I think just, sometimes our anxiety can be the worst and the best, right? Two things can be true at once. And I think you should really harness that side of yourself that is doubting, because I feel that on the other side of that doubt, there is a lot of belief. And we just allow ourselves as creatives, as small business owners, to really hone in on and highlight that doubt. But if you just take a moment just to pause, think, and look at everything else that is positive, you'll find the confidence it is that you need to do it. Trust. Okay, I'm going to end that there because I didn't want this to be a long one. I do have some really fun interviews coming up. I have one with a tarot card reader. Fuck yes, we love. I also have been linking in and trying to get on some burlesque dancers and some people of colour. But of course, as always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Go follow me on Instagram at 1-800-MADBUTT. Send me an email through my website, madbutt.com.au, if you have any feedback or if you would like to come on the potty. And go out there and do whatever you think you can't do. Unless you need like a license for it or something. Like, don't go and like operate on people. I'm not saying that. But like, if you think that you can't be in that exhibition, submit for that prize, do that presentation, get on that plane, like, go and do it. Just go and fucking do it. Do it for me. Do it for me. All right, guys. Have a good evening or day wherever you are. Bye.